just used to doing it like this, but I'm sure that somebody out there knows a simpler way. Grep, by simpler I mean typing less. However, I found this to be a relatively easy and a simple example to follow through to build your foundation. Anyway, cat echo pipe, so pass whatever you plan to put into standard output, don't pass it to grep, and then grep will actually pull something out of here. Let's say I want grep to pull, I don't know, hey, pull hey. Excellent. So you see it has printed out the line hey there, but grep is case sensitive, and you can type in -i to ignore the case. You see that's pretty much the same. And look, it will still print out hey there. Let's see, EAL. Excellent. You see it has matched the pattern and it has printed that line out. So let's see if I have some common patterns that are the same for at least two lines. Okay, so grep E. You see how this will actually print out all three of them. Let's see with the H. Excellent. With H it will print out only two of the lines. So you see you can pass all sorts of patterns here without any sort of problems of whatsoever, and it will go for it and look for them. Now, as I said, we will use grep extensively throughout this tutorial, and you will see a great deal more of grep. That is why I would strongly recommend that you read the man pages on grep as extra reading material. You might think that it's vain or silly or something of a kind, but the creators of these programs have written these manual pages, and if you ask any Linux user out there, any Linux system administrator, they will tell you that they wouldn't be able to function without the man pages or the help in general that you get from the terminal from the system. So don't shy away from them, use them. And especially for grep, I would advise that you do read through it. As you see, you have multiple versions of it. Actually, these are completely different programs performing the same purpose, as they are a bit more advanced. So you have grep, egrep, fgrep. Egrep is generally used today a lot as well, but for simpler tasks you can use grep. For something extremely complex you can use egrep as well. Anyway, I bid you farewell here, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Welcome everybody to this tutorial. Today I will introduce you to the packet manager, to the default packet manager of Red Hat. Now this is the exact same packet manager that CentOS uses, so don't worry about it. The commands are the same. Anyway, the packet manager which Red Hat uses that you can use via command line, there is one for graphical user interface, but I am going to probably skip that one during the course of this tutorial, as the priority is on the terminal, and the Red Hat certification will primarily focus on the terminal and will require you to be able to do this via the command line. Anyway, the command that you use to install and search for any package from the repositories is yum. So yum is the default packet manager used for this purpose. Now, before I get into all the technical details and explain what yum does and how it works and what sort of arguments and parameters can you pass to it and how you can actually install stuff on Linux, let me just go ahead and first explain what a packet manager is. So a packet manager in pretty much any Linux distribution is basically a piece of software, a piece of code, which enables you to pull from a remote location, namely from the repositories, any piece of code that is within those repositories. And usually, like 90% of the cases, you have pretty much everything that you need within the repository, so you needn't actually go on the net and search and download software from unsecured sources. This is one of the main reasons why Linux is superior to any other operating system, primarily because you can actually pull from the maintained repositories where people actually work on those repositories and make sure that all of their content is safe and secure, so that you don't end up downloading a, I don't know, a Trojan or a virus or something of a kind. And I do believe that I have mentioned this in some of my previous tutorials. This has been running since the 90s or something of a kind. And only recently have Windows and Mac introduced their own methods of this, their own packet managers, where you can actually go on the net and actually pick things, where you can not on the net, sorry, where you can actually go hook up to a place, to a store of a sort, and pick things up. But unlike Windows and Mac, where you actually have to pay for these things. Okay, granted, some things are free, but most aren't. Using the repositories in Linux, you will find that everything is free. All the software from the default repositories is free of charge, as far as I know. I have never encountered anything that I needed to pay for, and I have been using Linux now for a very long line of years, which is fantastic. So once again, the packet manager enables you to install any piece of software that is within the repositories which are listed in your system. It is also possible to add new repositories to your system without bigger difficulty. You just have to edit the file, but please be aware that adding any new repositories, uh, you are basically authorizing that repository to forward you the content. So whatever you install, if you install it from that repository that you know little or nothing about, basically can be anything. That is why I would strongly advise to use only official repositories and not actually add anything. Perhaps you can add on your desktop machines RPM Fusion, which is very nice for some additional packets for multimedia and stuff of a kind, but generally you do not do this. You just use the official repositories, and from there you perform the installation. Now, of course, like with any other operating system, you are actually able to go onto the net, download a software for Red Hat or for CentOS, and install it no problems, as long as it is compatible with Linux, and to be more precise, as long as it is compatible with Red Hat distribution of Linux, because CentOS is of course based on Red Hat, Fedora is based on Red Hat is Red Hat, and you also have like Debian, which is basically Ubuntu is based on Debian, Mint is based on Debian, and so on and so forth. And you will see that there are two different extensions, so .rpm and .deb. Pretty much the packets that concern you are .rpm. There you go. There are softwares out there which do the conversion from .deb to .rpm and vice versa. However, there is no guarantee that it will work, so it is not generally recommended. Rather, instead find the original or the substitute program which has been ported or has an RPM extension or something of a kind. Anyway, there are other methods of installing software, of course. They don't need to necessarily be RPM packages. It can be any code that you can compile and run that is compatible with Red Hat. Although that is not recommended due to security reasons. The best way, the default way, the most secure way is to download all software that you need from the official repositories of Linux, or should I say from the official repositories of Red Hat, where you can find safe and secure software, and you can download it with great ease, and you can search through those repositories with great ease. Now, that being said, let me just go ahead and delete this, and now I'm going to use Yum to perform a search. So I can type in, well, before I actually use it for search, let's just go over the help menu. Okay, it's immediately it's loading up. So this one has quite a comprehensive amount of commands that you can pass to it, and we will be using Yum throughout this course, as we will need to install additional software as well. But this is one of the most important softwares that you can think of This is one of the most important functionalities of your system, the ability to install other software onto it from a remote source at a relatively fast pace, at a relatively good speed that depends really on your bandwidth and your processing power.